Man, Ray, it's so good to meet you. Thank you so much for taking a minute out today. I appreciate it.
Sure, you bet. Happy to be here, really.
Yeah, me too. So let's begin our journey with this. I asked this same question 5 years ago, 6 years ago. This pandemic changed everything.
Uh-huh.
How did you get through the coronavirus era, and how has it changed the way that you approach life and work today?
Well, I wrote a book.
There you go.
and you know what's interesting is, like a lot of people, when you find yourself cooped up, you become very reflective and you begin to look at and think about life. And for years, I had been told by people, I tend to do some public speaking, and people always said, "Man, you need to write a book about your story." And so here I was in the middle of COVID, living in a little house away from where we normally would live, kind of held up. And would you believe I got inspired to write the book? And it was at 5 a.m. one morning, and I'm sitting there in bed, and I decided I'm just going to start trying to write a little bit of a chapter on my iPhone. And you're not going to believe this. I wrote the first draft, 80,000 words on my iPhone. And I tell people, we don't have any excuses anymore. You know,
Uh-huh.
used to they would write by candlelight and a quill pen, and hopefully they can find some paper to write on. Then we used to use the old brother typewriters and use highlight things we wanted to change.
Yes.
And we don't have any excuses anymore. And I think there's a book inside of everyone. And so that's what I did. My wife, my mother, a lot of my family and others said, "Hey, you need to write that story and put it into print." And so, yeah, that's when I wrote it. We worked on it for several years after that, but it's live now. And actually, we believe it or not, we're going to have about 5 books come out this year. And
Wow.
this one is the first one that really kind of takes my story, my perspective on my life story, and shares the stories of other people along the way. Honestly, boys like me who were influenced by men and women and how they turned our lives into who we are today. That's what The Boy in the Yellow House is all about. It's about the boy in the yellow house and how he's influenced by all the other people around him, and how, like some of your listeners, I grew up in a single parent family. My dad was an alcoholic, taking to drugs. My mom was pregnant with me when she was 15. I was born when she was 16. Things didn't go well. Long story short, my dad became a convicted felon. I'm left with a single parent trying to find my way. I could have become, the guy in the jumpsuit instead of in the orange jumpsuit instead of the boy in the yellow house. But if it hadn't have been for certain people along the way who took interest in me, I never would have went to college. I never would have went to work at the United States Senate. I wouldn't be talking to Joe today, and my life would have been very differently. And so that's what this book's about. Is during the pandemic, I reflected on myself, but all these people, the power of personal influence that spoke into my life. And I know if I were to ask you, Joe, who was it? Was it a teacher? Was it a coach? Was it a parent, a grandparent? Was it a neighbor? Who was it that helped you become who Joe is today? And that's what we're celebrating
Yeah.
through this book. It was written initially, I wondered if I should write it as a memoir. And I have so many outlaws in my family. I thought, I'm going to write it, I'm going to turn it into a novel. 95% of it is really what happened.
Yeah.
And I turned it into a novel, get this, to protect the guilty.
That's awesome. So, let's peel back the layers of this book here. Let's go back to your beginnings and to start that, I want to know this. And to get a perspective on where you're at today. I'm going to put you in
Mhm.
front of a bunch of 12-year-olds at career day. You're in a
Yeah,
school, kid in the back of the room wants to know what you do for a living today. What
yeah.
you've done in your career, kind of a synopsis. How do you answer that child?
What I would say is that, probably like a lot of you, I'm wondering what I want to be in life. And all of us, we seek to find out what is our purpose. We have this desire to make a difference in the world. And I was kind of questioning a lot of that. And fortunately, despite having lived through a lot of trauma, because of some people that cared about me, loved about me, took interest in me, I was able to overcome adversity, and I was resilient, and I was able to triumph. And as a result, I became the first on my mom's side, the second on my dad's side to ever go to college.
Wow.
I know what it's like to drive onto a college campus for the first time. Joe, when I went to college, I looked around me and saw a lot of fraternity guys, and they had these starched shirts. I came from such a hardworking blue collar family. I didn't know how they got their shirts so stiff.
Yeah.
And so I'm talking total naivety. It doesn't matter where you start, it's how you finish.
Yeah.
You are who you surround yourself by. You're the average of your five closest friends. Show me your friends and I'll show you my future. And luckily, I had people come into my life that influenced me. I ended up going to college. I always like to say opportunity leads to opportunity. I got my degree. One of my professors and his wife I became friends with. They moved to Washington, D.C. I ended up working in the United States Senate for several years, worked in Washington, D.C. for several years. And long story short, I've been on a trajectory of working with leaders in Fortune 500 companies, larger scale enterprising family businesses. And I use my life experiences in running and being CEOs of large companies and looking at trying to do the same thing in the lives of others that was done in my life at my age. And so my life has been spent, part of my life was spent working in radio and television on both sides of the mic. That led me to being in the rooms with executives who didn't really know how to communicate well together. And I began to facilitate board meetings and the executive team meetings. And that ended up resulting in me becoming someone would call me an executive coach, a business coach, and I spent most of my days one-on-one with CEOs and executives and their leadership teams, helping them overcome the challenges and the opportunities that they face in life and work. Life affects work, work affects life. And so that's where I spend most of my time now at 62 years old, is giving back, trying to do what was done in my life as a 12-year-old little boy or little girl. And I love the fact that you mentioned a 12-year-old, because that's when my life fell apart. That's when my world came crashing in. It's when I was 12 years old. And man, you talk about wondering where life was going to take me. My dad tried to kill me twice. My dad was a drug addict and alcoholic. I became a single, parent kid. And man, it just seemed like an uphill battle.
Yeah.
And so I love thinking about a 12-year-old and making them and helping them realize, man, do you realize how much real potential you have? And you know what, Joe? It's not just 12-year-olds. I deal with CEOs that are in their 60s, just like me, and people are still asking those questions. And I love the way you framed it.
Yeah, thank you. Well, was it tough to write about those years? When you go through your life, there's periods that you have to revisit. What was that like to revisit that level of your existence?
And that was the whole beauty about, if you want to call it the beauty of it, COVID is, you're sitting there and you're being reflective. And I was actually inspired by, I saw Hillbilly Elegy,
Yeah.
and I was watching Hillbilly Elegy. That's about the J.D. Vance story. And I'm sitting there and I'm watching it, and I look to my wife and I go, I'm going to have to pause this. She said, what's going on? I said, this movie is bringing back images and traumas that I had stuffed.
Yeah.
So we paused it. We talked about it. We ended up watching it. And it was out of that I started unveiling to myself and unpacking what had happened. And yes, I was in tears at times. I was angry at times. But more than anything, Joe, it became a healing process.
There you
It
go.
became a way for me to heal. And here's a phrase that came out of the book: I am no longer going to be held hostage by my past. I'm not going to be held hostage by my past. I don't want to. I don't want to be held back. I want to move ahead. So yeah, absolutely. It was tough at times, but man, it's been awesome now. And especially now that I'm starting to hear people call me, text me, telling me, "Hey man, I can relate to your story. Thanks for sharing."
That's beautiful. So, who was that hero? Who was that inspirational force that made you round that corner and believe in college and everything was possible?
Well, first of all, it's not just one person.
Right. Right.
But I'm going to give you one person that most people get a kick out of hearing about. And like a lot of people, it's a coach. And I tell people all the time, never underestimate the power of being a coach, a teacher, or a mentor in someone's life. And so, probably like a lot of your listeners, I don't want to be presumptuous. I know you got a background and love for sports, but I'm just going to tell you, Joe, I was Mr. B teamer. I was the top of the B team, bottom of the A team.
Yeah.
And it's okay, but you're stuck in limbo. You want more, but you just don't quite have what it takes. Well, there was one game that I got to travel with the A team, and anybody that's ever been a B teamer, and this is talked about in the book. I was a B teamer, and I'm sitting at the end of the bench, and we're fighting our arch rival. And this particular year, we're kicking tail, Joe. We are putting it on them. It's basketball, and I mean, we're hanging 30 on them. It's in the fourth quarter. I look kind of out of the corner of my eye, look down the bench. Everybody's out of their warm up except for one guy. Who was that, Joe? It's me. And
Yeah.
if you ever been a B teamer, you know what
Oh
happens at that
yeah.
point. 30 seconds left in the game. We're up by 30. Everybody's played. And at this point, what are you doing? You're leaning back.
Uh-huh.
You're leaning back. You're just want to melt. You're like, hey, coach, I'm good. I'm good, coach. I don't have to go in, coach. I'm good. I'll get you some cold water. Do you need something else? Do I need to go talk to the cheerleaders? What do I need to go warm up the bus? What are we doing?
Yeah.
And lo and behold, 30 seconds in the game, what does he do? The words I don't want to hear. Sanders! And the guy in the mixed match warm-ups pulls off his warm-ups, gets out on the floor. I was kind of a chubby, big kid in those days. And I'm not a guard. I'm a forward. I'm a baseline forward. There's a guard underneath the goal, throws me the ball. And I'm like, oh my word. All I got to do is get it to the other end of the court. And so I'm boom, boom, boom. It's like, the $1 million man. It's time freezes. The lights are big. The audience, the crowd is large. Everybody's there. And I'm going, oh, this is what it's all about being in these kind of games. People aren't in the bleachers at my games. This is what it's like to have people in the bleachers actually cheering for you. Joe, this is a true story. I dribble. I'm kind of in my moment. I get to half court and I kick the ball, the basketball, off the end of my foot. It goes flying. And the next thing, all I remember is game over, cloud cheers, everybody's laughing. I run down into the locker room in embarrassment. It gets worse. I hit my head on a sewer pipe running
Yeah.
down into the basement. All my teammates are around me. Man, did you mean to do that? You're so funny. That was hilarious. I wanted to crawl in a bandbox. I didn't know. I was so devastated, embarrassed, mortified.
Yeah.
But that next week, I was always the kid that would hang around after practice. Coach Wilson and I were locking up the gym. I still remember this day. Almost 50 years later, I'm still telling this story. It's late at night. The school's dark. I see the metal bars on the door that you push. Coach Wilson takes a chain. He wraps it around those metal bars. He snaps the big master lock. Are you with me?
Oh yeah.
And then he turns with me, puts his arm on my shoulder. And yet, keep in mind that I thought that masculinity meant that you had to be mean.
Yeah.
My dad was a bar fighter. He tried to take my life twice. I thought you had to be. And here was a big Coach Wilson, a masculine man's man, puts his big old arm around me, looks me in the eye, and he says this. He says, Sanders, you and I both know you're never going to start on the A team. He said, but let me tell you something, young man. You keep your work ethic. You keep fighting. You keep trying. You keep doing what you're doing, and you're going to be something someday.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not the president of the United States. I'm not anything special. You didn't know my name before, the last few days. And there are people who do know my name, but most people don't. But Coach Wilson spoke a truth into my life that day that forever
Yep.
helped me see what I didn't see in myself.
Yep.
And that's the power of personal influence. And that's who the boy in the yellow house was surrounded by. And this book is full of stories like that. People that came alongside me in my life. And because of Coach Wilson, I began to get confidence. I ended up running for student body president. I ended up going to college on a scholarship because of a counselor who encouraged me. I ended up going to the University of Oklahoma. I graduated. I ended up in the United States Senate, working with the president of the United States and all the senators at the time. Just a prairie kid from Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And those are cool things, but none of those would have happened if I had believed who I thought I was.
Yep.
but it took somebody else seeing more in me. This is not a unique story. Everybody has those stories, but
Yeah.
isn't it great to hear them? Isn't
Oh,
it
I
great
love
to
it.
hear them? But even more so, don't just think about yourself. Think about the power you have. Joe,
Yeah.
that's why you do this podcast.
Yeah.
You don't have to wake up every morning and do this podcast. You're doing this podcast. My personal purpose statement is I want to mobilize leaders who will use their influence to impact the world for good.
Yeah.
Guess what? That's what Joe's doing today. That's what your listeners are doing today. And we have got to wake up and look around us and look for the little boys and the little girls and the
Yeah.
people who grew up in yellow houses and say, I have the power to
Yep.
make a difference in someone's life. I can love and encourage and inspire someone today. Will I choose to do it?
One of the most influential sports movies of all time is about that level of grit, Rudy. It was all
Mm-hmm.
about trying, right? All he wanted to
Mm-hmm.
do was to get into one game. And he got
Yep.
into the game and he got carried
Yeah.
off the field. It's those stories. When I was in the eighth grade, there was my health teacher, or our PE teacher. His name was Dave Rabori. And he was a Vietnam vet. And he used to call you derelict. He would just, kind of rib on us. It was the 80s. And he caught me in the hall one day and he said, Domino, I'm just there's more in you. You got to stop this whole thing because I was just doing the thing. I was hanging out with the wrong people. But he leaned out and said, You got to do something different." And that was the beginning. And it is. It's always that one person, and you don't know how it's going to materialize. You may never know about it, but that's you just got to do it. You got to put that butterfly in the hurricane and hope for the best.
Yeah. And we owe it to those guys. Now, he's probably, who knows if he's still around or not, but your listeners, everybody that's listening today, they all thought about that person.
Oh yeah, yeah,
They all did. And you know what? We owe it to those people to pick up the phone, send a text, send a letter, call them, find them, DM them through Facebook, Instagram, or whatever, and say, hey, Coach Wilson, hey, PE teacher, I just want you to know I am who I am today because of you. Man, who doesn't live for that moment? You can
yeah,
live your whole life. My son was, he works in television for the Discovery Channel and some other folks. And one of his associates passed away. And he spoke at his funeral. And he said, I can't remember the guy's name, but he said, this is a guy that believed in me in my early days in television. He said he believed in me. And my son said, and it's so true. He said, we all just need one person who
yep.
believes in us.
That's it.
We just need one. And
Yep.
the deal is we can be that person in somebody else's life.
Yeah. So Bill Moss played for the Chiefs in the 80s. He was a big dude, very, very, he's in the Chiefs Ring of Fire, that whole thing. So I was out about 2 weeks ago with my wife. We were on a date with a double date, and this guy walks in. I'm like, who is that? Is that Bill Moss from my childhood? And it was him. It was the football guy. And I went up and I said, You guys, thank you for being so nice to us. They used to play basketball with us. They'd sign autographs. They would talk to us. And I said, I just want you to know, I'm a grown man now, but when I was a kid, you guys were cool and you totally looked out for us. Those are the moments. And even as being a big athlete, I think those are the things. Not selfies, not an autograph. Just go up as a human being and say, you know what, man? You had every choice as a millionaire football guy to do whatever you wanted to do, but you were cool with us. You took us in, and it completely influenced me giving my son Miles that love of sports. He gets autographs all the time. He loves the players. It's that circle of life. It's perpetuating a good cycle, and it just makes sense, you know?
Well, isn't it great to know that you don't have to be a star with the Kansas City Chiefs in order to do that?
Right.
I was at the American Bankers Association several years back, and I gave a speech called "The Pesky Pillow Problem."
Yeah.
Now, hang with me on this, and people can listen to it on my website. But the pesky pillow problem is this: each and every one of us lay our head on our pillow every night, and we sit there for a minute, and what we really want to know is we want to know that our life had meaning and purpose. We want to know that we made a difference. We can make a lot of money. We can do a lot of things. I mean, you mentioned Bill Moss. I mean, certainly this is a guy who tasted success.
Yeah.
But the thing I promise you that he probably reflects on were those little moments when he had an opportunity to interact with people like you. And he thinks to himself, maybe today I made a difference. And I challenge people. We have this pesky pill problem. We lay our head down and we reflect on our day, and we can't remember anybody or any way that we made a difference. And I challenge people with this: the way you overcome the pesky pillow problem is the next morning when you get out of bed, you have in your mind this thought: I am going to find the one. What do you mean? I'm going to find the one. Bill Moss found Joe that day.
Yeah.
And all you have to do is decide, I'm just going to find someone to encourage, someone to love, someone to
Mhm.
inspire every day. And guess what happens? They show up.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And you know what? They might be even under your own roof.
Yeah.
That you might be sharing a bowl of cereal with them. You
Mhm.
might have kissed her on the cheek as you walked out the door. Or it may have been at your favorite convenience store where you get a cup of coffee and a guy that you see every day and fills your gas tank. You finally learn his name, and you're the only one out of 300 customers who even knows what his name is. And it's just a simple smile. It's a word of encouragement, but it can also happen in big ways.
Yeah.
And so you go throughout your day and then you lay your head on your pillow. Well, guess what? You do that 365 times a year. You do that for 10 years. You've reached nearly 4,000 people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, here in Oklahoma, I don't know how it is in your neck of the woods. That's another good Okie term.
Yes.
Um, in your neck of the woods. But when we get outside of the metropolitan areas, we can sometimes be going out on the red dirt roads. We have red dirt music here. And by the way, just for fun, I know you're a jazz guy, but I grew up with Garth Brooks and we played together in a band in high school for 2 years. He went to Oklahoma State. I went to the University of Oklahoma, and the rest is history. I'm on
Yeah.
Joe's podcast, and Garth is somewhere, making millions in Nashville.
Yeah.
But and red dirt music was born out of Stillwater, Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And as you get out on those red dirt roads, some of your listeners may not relate to this, but here in Oklahoma, we can. You will see oftentimes a turtle, not alive, shell setting on the top of a post.
Yeah.
And when the first time you see one, you think, what in the world?
Yeah.
What is that turtle doing on that post? And it's a simple question. How does a turtle get on the post, Joe?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I mean,
Yeah, you do. Somebody put him there.
okay. Yeah. Well, I was wondering if it was a bird or if it was something else or a person. Yeah.
Yeah. See, it's so weird,
Yeah.
but it's true. Imagine a turtle on a post, and there's this turtle sitting on top of this post. It didn't go so well for him.
Yeah.
And the analogy breaks down at that point. But one thing we know, somebody put that turtle
Uh-huh.
there. And
Yep.
guess what, Joe? You and me and your listeners, we're all turtles on a post.
That's it.
Somebody helped get us to where we are. No one is a self-made man.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally. So let me ask you this. You've had a successful career. You've done so much. You're doing a lot now. When you think of the word retirement, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
Well, I've had an opportunity to do a lot of work in Africa.
Yeah.
And so I had an opportunity to get millions of people water through a nonprofit that I led for several years. And so I have had the chance to live in the bush, be in the bush, and be around some people in some of the most challenging environments in the world. And there's a gentleman that's now close to 80 years old. His name is Ngira, and he lives in Kenya. He has a house in Nairobi. He has a house out in the bush. And so I spent many, many, many days with Ngira. He's probably 20 plus years older than me. And here I am, let's just say 10 years ago, hanging out with Ngira, and we would go in town. We're in the Land Rover. We're running all over. And what I noticed is, well, first of all, the guy's just a stud. I mean, he's at that time, he's probably in his 70s, late 60s anyway, early 70s. And he's got guns, man. And he's not going to Gold's Gym. He's not. I'm like, what is this guy's secret? What is he doing? What is he up to? And what I found out and what I figured out is I asked him, I said, what is the secret to your success? And he said, I will never retire.
Yeah, that's it.
I'll never retire. And I said, what do you mean? He said, I just retire. I said, wait a minute. You don't retire, but you retire. He says, yeah, think of it this way. I retread.
Yep.
He says, show me anywhere. Show me anybody that's really ever that really ends their life well, that chases white balls around golf courses and looks for seashells and sits around and watches movies. He said, I find a way to be active. I find a way to give back. I'm involved. I mean, we would go with a bunch of young men to pick up water well supplies. He's right in the middle of it. He's pipe on the truck. He's loading heavy objects. He is involved, and that's why he stayed strong. So no, I'm not the guy that's going to retire.
Yeah.
I'm the guy that's going to retread.
So, have you been in the Oval Office?
Mm-hmm.
So, did you think about your 12-year-old self when you were in there? What'd you think about because when you go in and you have that moment of going from your lowest to your highest, what's the first thought that sears through your head when you're in that historic chamber of America?
What am I doing here?
Yeah.
I mean, and here's the thing that's really interesting is that the longer I worked with U.S. senators and worked with the president, and I never will forget the first time I mic'd up then Vice President George H.W. Bush, when I first mic'd him up, it was, obviously it's honorable.
Yeah.
But I also remember, Joe, I was about 23 to 24 years old. Now think about that.
Yeah.
23 to 24 years old. And I'll take it from the Oval Office, but I'm going to give you a real story about a time I was with John Glenn. Remember the astronaut,
Oh, yeah.
John Glenn?
Of course.
And it's late night. We're in a studio. We're getting ready to go live on NBC or CBS. It's just me and a camera and a makeup person and a control room director taking a feed to give one of the networks. It's quiet. And John Glenn looks to me and says, "How do you think I ought to start? How do I look?" And what's really crazy is there was another time, and I just talked about it in the book. We actually did some. He was a bald headed guy like me, and so you don't want him to look all shiny. So one night there was another night like that. It was me and another guy, and our makeup artist wasn't there, and they took a powder puff, and they put it on top of John Glenn's head, and they went whoop, and a big powder pile was on top of his head, and we're like, "What are we going to do?" We walked up, covered his face, and just blew all the dust off. What's my point? The thing that I went away with, and I had a judge here in Oklahoma, a federal judge asked me, he said, after all the thousands of leaders that you've met with, what have you found common among all those leaders?
Yeah.
And I think this is the point of your question about the Oval Office, and this is the question about some of the guys that we recognize in the news as world leaders, is that, believe it or not, they're all insecure.
Yep.
They all want to know that it's okay. They all want to know that they matter, and they all need assurance. And those insecurities begin to manifest themselves in over exuberance or in being an introvert. It manifests itself in different ways. But if we could all just recognize that we're not nearly as confident as we come off,
Yeah.
that we're all insecure. When a U.S. senator, more than one, by the way, has done that with me. And it's not because I'm special, because I'm smart. He's just alone with me in a studio, and he knows that I'm a subject matter expert. And he's humble enough,
Yep.
quite frankly, it's really a sign of his humility and his leadership
Yep.
to ask somebody 23, 24 years old,
Yep.
what do you think?
Mm-hmm.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
That's a real sign of leadership when you can ask somebody who's 40, 50 years younger than you what they think and value and actually do what they said and trust them to help you look your best.
That's beautiful.
So we all have to recognize that we are insecure, and we have to realize that everybody's insecure. And I like to say this to my clients all the time. Part of my goal is to teach you how to love and lead people.
Yeah.
If we lead with love, mercy and grace will follow. And isn't that what we all need? We're all screwed up.
Yep.
We're not half of what we've claimed to be on Facebook and otherwise.
Oh, yeah.
We're not.
Right.
So yeah, that's what I took out of that Washington, D.C. experience.
I love it. So let me ask you this. At the end of the day, Ray, everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, everyone you work with, clients, everyone that gets your book, everyone that's known you, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Oh man, who do I think I'm a wild man.
Yeah.
Man, I am a wild man. I'm full of energy and full of life. I do this whole exercise with my clients about helping them determine their values. And I try to live my life out of my core values. And there's an exercise on my website people can take for free. It's a values assessment. But here are my 5 values: faith, family, fun, impact, and integrity. Those are my 5 values. And I filter everything through those values. And man, the second one, what was it? Fun.
Yeah.
And I tell people your values typically come from either being violated or validated in your life story.
Yep.
And in my case, I started off, it was rough, dude.
Yeah.
I've lived the rough years. And so how I see myself, I'm going for it. I'm
Yeah.
going to live it to the fullest. I tell my kids, I will not rust out. I will wear out. My heart will explode. I'm going to grab every bit of life I can. I'm going to stay as fit as long as I can. I'm going to stay mentally fit as long as I can. I'm going to stay spiritually fit as long as I can. And I'm going to flame out. I'm not going to wear out. And I think I'm raw and I'm real. That's one of the things my clients like about me. I'm just raw and real and relevant. My kids have said this. I've been at the beach. We do an annual beach trip. My oldest daughter said this to me once, and I really love this. She said, Dad, the thing I love about you is that you are a lifelong learner.
Yep.
And she said, you are so willing to learn something new every day. And
Yep.
I'm just curious. I'm just curious. Life has so much to offer. The more I know, and I know you're the same way, Joe, the more I know, the more I realize I don't know.
Oh yeah.
And what does that make me want to do? I want to know more. That's why you spend time with goobers like me. You get the opportunity to have a richer life and to be exposed to so many
100%.
different types of people. You are the benefactor of your own show.
Yeah. It's wild. My show engineer said that years ago. I got off the phone with Sonny Rollins and I was humming and vibrating at a different level. And he stopped me. And he's a very wise man from the flatlands in Nebraska. Been in radio his whole life. And he said, I want you to understand one thing right now. You think he filled your cup? You did the same thing. When you have a conversation and it's engaging and it's quality, you're going to do the same thing. It's a two-way avenue. And I've never forgotten that. And that's the thing. If you go in like what you said with love and integrity and your heart's there, all of it's going to follow one way or another. But you got to be alive on the planet long enough to understand that because when you're young,
Oh,
you don't know any of it.
Oh, you're right, bro. My wife and
Yeah.
I were talking about this just 2 days ago. We're thinking, how would we have done things differently knowing what we know now? And it's almost like you wish you got a do-over. But you know what? I'm not gonna worry about it.
No.
Tomorrow's a new day.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take what I know. And you know what? I'm gonna give it back. I'm
Yep.
gonna try to help
Amen.
people learn from my own experiences.
That's it. That's it. And what you're doing is beautiful. You got such a catalog of wonder and I love it. So the boy in the yellow house, if anybody wants to hire you, they have questions, they want to reach out, any of the good soup, where do they go?
It's real easy. The easiest thing is just to go to raysanders.com.
Okay.
raysanders.com. They'll see all the resources. There's a lot of fun, free resources that
Yep.
I've developed. The books are on there. We're getting ready to add another book in February to the list. They can get the link to Amazon to go get the book, The Boy in the Yellow House. It's a ride, man. It's real.
I love
It's
it.
about growing up in the prairie. It's a fun. It's exciting. It's very crazy at times, but you meet some really cool people along the way.
I totally dig it. Ray, what a joy. Thank you, sir. So great to meet you. I loved your story. Thank you. And